Right. This is PART-4-65. Myself, Srija. So today in this session, you are going to learn about the glands of integumentary system. So what are the glands of integumentary system, how they are classified, and what functions they do play a role in integumentary system. You are going to learn about it. So coming to sebaceous glands. So what are sebaceous glands? So sebaceous glands, or these are the oil producing glands of the skin. So they release sebum, which is a thick lipid rich fluid that helps to lubricate, moisturize and protect both skin and hair. So what are the general features of this sebaceous glands? So it is a type of gland. It is a holocrine gland, right? So what do you mean by holocrine gland? Why it is important? Because it plays a role in the entire cell ruptures to release secretion. So this provides rich oily protection. So coming to shape, it is a branched alveolar glands. So many small sacs group together. So this increases the secretion capacity. So what is the location of the sebaceous glands? These are located throughout the body except in the palms and soles, because these areas have thick skin without the hair. They do not require the sebum. And how they are associated? These are connected to the hair follicles, because sebum flows into hair follicles, it spreads out into the skin surface. So although most sebaceous glands are attached to the hair follicles, they some exist freely. They exist independently. So what are the examples of free sebaceous glands? Eyelids, which are meibomian glands. With these help to prevent evaporation of tears. And the other example is lips. 40 spots are present. So these are the visible yellowish spots in some people with a normal variation. So why are sebaceous glands important? Because they lubricate skin and hair. They play a role in the antimicrobial action, and they also play a role in the water repelling. So coming to anatomy of the sebaceous glands. So sebaceous glands, these are the microscopic oil producing glands which are embedded in the dermis. So what is the key structure feature? Because they consist of a multiple lobes, which is also called as acini. So what do you mean by acini? It's a grape-like clusters of secretory sacs. So each lobe, it produces sebum. So you can clearly see in the picture, it looks like a grape-like clusters, right? So each lobe, it produces the sebum. So it has a short duct. So what does this short duct do? The secretion passes through this duct to reach the skin surface. And then this short duct, it opens into hair follicle, which is most common forms of the pilosebaceous unit. So which consists of hair, sebaceous gland, and also the erector pili muscle. So in hairless areas, the eyelids, lips, which consist of the sebaceous ducts, they directly open into the skin surface instead of a hair follicle. So what are the cells of sebaceous glands? So there are two main cell types which participate in the cell growth and also secretion. What are those? The germinate basal cells and also the sebocytes. So germinate basal cells, so you have to think of them as a stem cells of the sebaceous gland. So these are small cuboidal and actively dividing. So these are located at the outer body of the acinus. So what is the major role of these germinative basal cells? They produce new sebocytes. So coming to sebocytes, so what are sebocytes? These are the large and lipid rich cells. So you have to think them of as an oil filled cells that burst to release the sebum. So as they mature, they move towards the center of the acinus. So they accumulate the increasing amount of the fat droplets, and also they help in the rupture and releasing the oil secretion sebum. So this method of secretion, nothing but the cell bursting, it is called as the holocrine secretion. So what is sebum? First, sebum is a thicky oil secretion which is consisting of the triglycerides, waxes, fatty acids, cholesterol, and squalene. So what is the function of the sebum? It lubricates, a lubrication, antimicrobial role, waterproofing role, and it also protects the hair. Sebaceous glands, they release the sebum via the holocrine secretion. These are the mostly connected to hair follicles forming the pilosebaceous unit. They also contain the basal germinative cells and also the sebocytes for the sebum release. So these are the main points you have to remember about the sebaceous glands. So what is the composition and function of the sebum? Sebum, it's a oily secretion produced by the sebaceous glands. So what does it play? It plays a vital role in maintaining the health of skin and hair. So what is the composition of the sebum? It is rich in lipids, right? Sebum is rich in fats. So the approximate composition is triglycerides. They consist of about 50% of the sebum. So this break down into the acids, right? So wax esters, they contribute about 25% of the sebum. It helps in lubrication and also it prevents from the water loss. Whereas squalene, it contributes about 12% of the sebum. What is its role? It maintains the natural moisturizer and also the antioxidant properties. Whereas free fatty acids, it consists about 10 to 15% of the total sebum. It maintains the acidic nature. Whereas cholesterol plus cholesterol esters, these are very small amount. These are present in very small amount. So they maintain the barrier and also repair of the cells. So what are the functions of the sebum? Sebum is not just oil. It performs a multiple protective functions. It helps in the lubrication. Nothing but it keeps the skin soft and flexible. It prevents the dryness, cracking and flaking. It also lubricates the hair shafts, preventing brittleness and the breakage. So the other function is waterproofing plus moisture retention. So what does the sebum do in waterproofing? It forms a hydrophobic, nothing but a water repelling layer. So it also prevents the excessive water loss which results in the dehydration from the skin. So next function is the antimicrobial defense. So it frees the fatty acids, it maintains the acidic pH, and also this sebum, it inhibits the growth of bacteria and fungi, which is a natural immune defense. So it also has this antioxidant effect. So squalene, it protects the skin from the oxidative stress and also from the UV damage. So next, coming to temperature and chemical barrier, sebum, it protects the skin from environmental chemicals and also from the irritants. So this reduces the friction. So this is about the sebum composition and functions. So what are the regulation of the sebaceous glands? Nothing but a sebum production control. So the sebaceous glands, they do not work independently. So their secretion, nothing but the sebum production is controlled by different factors, several factors. So these factors can either increase or decreases the sebum output. So what is the hormone control? It is the most important one. The hormones are the major regulators of the sebaceous gland activity. So what are the hormones playing the role? Androgens like testosterone, DHT. So this increases the sebum production, whereas estrogen, it decreases the sebum production. Whenever these androgen levels are high, the sebum becomes excessive, which results in puberty, pregnancy, and hormonal imbalances. So this is why acne often worsens during the puberty and also from the hormonal fluctuations. So next is nervous system. So the sebaceous gland is not strongly controlled by the nervous system. However, stress, it aggravates the sebaceous gland activity indirectly. Like the stress hormones like cortisol, it can worsen inflammation and also the acne. So emotional stress may trigger the flare-ups in the acne-prone skin. So the next is nutritional factors. So diet does not directly stimulate the sebum, but it also has an influencing role, especially in the acne-prone individuals. So food that can increase sebum production are the high glycemic index foods like sugar, white bread, junk foods. So also the foods that can increase the sebum production are also the dairy products. So these foods may stimulate the insulin, nothing but the IGF-1 factor, which increases the androgen effect that results in the production of more sebum, which causes the acne. So this is how the nutritional factors regulates the sebum secretion. So coming to environmental factors. So climate, it affects how much sebum the body feels it needs. So for example, if you are in a cold or dry weather, what the effect you see? Sebaceous glands, they become more active to prevent the dryness. Whereas when you are in hot and humid climate, the sebaceous activity, it decreases because the skin already stays moist. So this is about how the factors, they regulate the secretion, they regulate the sebum secretion. So next, coming to functions of the sebaceous glands. So what are the functions? The lubrication of hair and skin. So sebum keeps the skin and hair moist, smooth and also shiny. So without lubrication, the skin becomes dry and also hair becomes rough and brittle. So protection from dehydration. So how does it protect? Sebum forms a thin oily layer that reduces water loss from the skin. So this prevents dryness and also it helps to maintain from the skin hydration balance. The third function is barrier against friction and minor trauma. What do you mean by it? So the oily coating reduces the friction when skin rubs against the clothes or other surfaces. So this sebaceous glands, this acts as a cushion barrier against the small injuries. So the fourth function is antibacterial and antifungal defense. So in this, the sebum also contains lipids and antimicrobial substances that inhibit the growth of bacteria and fungi on the skin, which protects against the infection. So the next function is maintenance of skin flexibility and softness. By keeping the skin moisturized, sebum helps to maintain the elasticity and the softness, preventing the tightness and the rough texture. So the next function is it supports the skin's acid mantle. So what is the pH level for the skin? For the normal skin, it is 4.5 to 6.0. This sebum forms part of the acid mantle. So this acidic pH, what does it do? It stops the harmful microbes from growing. It keeps the skin surface healthy. In this way, it supports the skin acid's mantle. So the next function is it prevents the fissures and cracks in the epidermis. So by preventing the dryness and dehydration, the sebum protects against the cracks, fissures and scaling. So these damages, they can let the microorganisms enter too, so that the sebum helps to maintain the intact skin barrier. So the easy way you can remember all the functions is you can keep all the starting letters and make a word. So L for lubrication, P for protection, B for barrier, antimicrobial for A, and F for flexibility, A for acid mantle, and P for prevents cracks. Finally, you can make a word like L, P, B, A, F, A, P, so that you can remember all the functions easily. So this is all about the sebaceous glands. So one of the important glands of the integumentary system. So now let's go into sweat glands. So what are sweat glands? Sweat glands, these are also called as the sudoriferous glands. So they are the exocrine glands of the skin that releases the sweat onto the skin surface through the ducts. So the sweat glands, what are the main functions of sweat glands? These glands, they help in thermoregulation, nothing but cooling the body by evaporation of the sweat. And also they help the role in the waste excretion, removal of urea, salts and lactic acid from the body. And also maintaining skin hydration. It keeps the skin moist and also protects from the dehydration. So humans have 2 to 5 million of sweat glands distributed all over the body. So they open directly onto the skin surface or into the hair follicles depending upon the type of the gland. So there are two main types of sweat glands. Eccrine gland, also called as merocrine sweat glands, and the second one is apocrine sweat glands. So what are eccrine glands? So these are the most numerous type. These are found mainly in the palm, soles, forehead, chest and back. So they directly open directly on the surface of the skin. So they secrete the watery hypotonic sweat, which involves 99% of water plus salts. So what is the primary role? It cools the body, nothing but it helps in thermoregulation, and this maintains the electrolyte balance. So this eccrine glands, these are active from the birth itself. So the second type is apocrine sweat glands. So these are found in axilla like armpits, areola of the breast, groin, and also the perineum. This open into the hair follicles. They secrete the thick viscous sweat which is rich in proteins and lipids. So apocrine sweat itself has no odor because the body odor occurs when bacteria break it down. So these apocrine glands, they become active after puberty. So this body odor, it increases during the adolescence. So despite of eccrine and apocrine sweat glands, we also have the specialized sweat glands, so which are called as subtypes of apocrine. So what are those? The ceruminous glands and also the mammary glands. So the ceruminous glands, they are located in the ear canal. They produces the ear wax, nothing but the cerumen. Whereas mammary glands, they are located, these are the breast area and they produces the milk. So in the right side, you can see the picture. In this, the eccrine gland and apocrine gland, you can see, right? So eccrine gland, how it looks like? It is a coiled tubule opening to the skin surface, which is blue in color. And whereas apocrine gland, it is opening into a hair follicle again. So now let's talk about these eccrine and apocrine sweat glands. So eccrine sweat glands is also called as merocrine glands. So where these are located? So eccrine glands, these are the most common type of sweat glands in the human body. They are also found almost everywhere, especially in the palm, soles, forehead, scalp, upper trunk and axilla. But in armpits, they are less than the apocrine glands. So these glands are active since from the birth, unlike apocrine glands that activate during the puberty. So these eccrine glands, they have the simple coiled tubular shape. So coming to structure, they simply have the simple coiled tubular shape. So these are located deep in the dermis or upper hypodermis, nothing but the subcutaneous layer. So they connect to the skin surface by a sweat pore and have two main types. So what are the two main types? Secretory portion and also the duct portion. So this secretory portion, it is located deep in the dermis, whereas duct portion, it is located straight, it reaches the surface. So the secretory portion, it produces the sebum or sweat. So duct portion, it carries the sweat. So these are the functions of both the secretory portion and duct portion. So what is the type of secretion of this eccrine sweat gland? So eccrine glands, that produces watery hypotonic sweat. So what do you mean by hypotonic? Concentration of salts is lower than the body fluids. So what is the composition of the eccrine sweat? Water, it consists of 99%, and sodium, potassium chloride, these are the electrolytes, and also urea and uric acid. So what its role? It releases the waste products, and also lactic acid and vitamin C. They helps in skin hydration and also the protection. Trace waste, they help in getting the mineral metabolic waste. So what is the function of eccrine sweat gland? Although not written, these are the main functions. What are those? Thermoregulation, nothing but cooling of the body. It maintains the skin hydration. It also helps in the excretion of metabolic waste, and it helps to maintain the skin's pH, nothing but acidic layer, which protects against the bacteria. So this is the type of secretion for the eccrine sweat glands. So next is the mode of secretion. So what is the mode of secretion? So eccrine sweat glands, they uses the merocrine secretion. So this means the sweat is released by the exocytosis. Exocytosis is nothing but a secretory vessels. They releases the content outside the cell. So there is no part of the cell lost during the secretion. So unlike sebaceous glands like holocrine or apocrine glands like apocrine secretion, no part of the cell is lost. So what are the functions of the eccrine sweat glands? Thermoregulation is the main function, because when sweat evaporates from the skin, it removes the heat, cooling the body. And next function is the evaporative heat loss, like sweating increases during the heat or exercise. It prevents the overheating. So next coming to excretion. Excretion is also the function of the sweat glands. So remove small amounts of metabolic waste For example, urea, ammonia, and lactic acid. So it also maintains the skin hydration. It moistures and skin on skin. It prevents the dryness. So formation of the acid mantle. Sweat plus sebum, they form a slightly acidic layer. So this protects the against bacteria and fungi. So overall, eccrine glands, they keeps the temperature stable, it protects from the microbes and also maintain the hydration. Now, how the nerve supply is done to the sweat glands? This is controlled by the sympathetic nervous system. So exception in the body is most sympathetic nerves use the norepinephrine, but eccrine sweat glands are stimulated by the acetylcholine. So this is why the sweating increases during stress, anxiety, and the exercise. So this is about the sweat glands and the eccrine sweat glands. So this is for today's session. I hope this session has helped you. So in the next session, we are going to learn about the apocrine sweat glands and also the specialized sweat glands like ceruminous glands and mammary glands, and also you are going to learn about the physiology of the integumentary system in the next session. Thank you.